I'm literally always the odd one out in this group, so like maybe I'll end up liking this book. I hate this book so much. Can it be that bad? Like, can it actually be that bad? Oblivion NPC level dialogue. I'm not sure how much worse it's gonna get. Got this James Cameron's Avatar ass unobtainium. This is still on par with like what I expected. This is absolutely for preteens. Like, is it really that bad? Can it really get that bad? Atrocious. I actually can't get over how bad this book was. Hi BookTube, I'm the Book Mage. Welcome back to my channel. As I have mentioned a few times on my channel before, you may have picked up on it, as of like December last year, me and two friends started this thing that we call Goth Girl Book Club. Now, what normally happens is that the other two ladies love the books and I give everything a 3 stars. So the expectation that I have is that while I'm happy to read these books and while I like the experience of book club, I just assume that we're always going to pick a book that they end up loving and that for some reason I just don't vibe with as much. That has been, so far, what the track record is like. Now, here is where it gets interesting and why I am filming this vlog. Our third book is Faebound by Saara El-Arifi. I'm pretty sure this got picked because my friend has Fairy, so I think she just picked a book that was like a new release that she was excited to read because we both have like special editions of it, and so like that's why it was the pick. So like it's not like a lot of thought goes into these, we just kind of agree on something and go for it, right? And looking at this, you know, it's Fae, it's elven sisters or something, like meeting up with like the Fae court, and it's a fantasy and probably a romantasy, and you know, it's fairy. So I was like, I'm detecting a strong 3 stars at best here, girls. And I was thinking that they would love it. Yet again, there's been a twist. There has been a twist. There has been some developments in the group chat. Both of them hate this book. Both of them hate it. They hate it so much. I don't know what to do with this. Hearing just how much they hate it, my friend who gives like, she gave like Fourth Wing a 5 stars. I would have thought that this would have been her vibe given other ratings like that, right? She gave it 0 stars. Not even 1 star, not even 1 star, not even 1 single fucking star. I didn't realise that we could go down to 0 stars. I might have to start doing that. And my head is just like, can it be that bad? Like, can it actually be that bad? Like, this is a lovely edition. One of them's read it all the way through, and one of them's like 100 pages in and wants to DNF it, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a spicy one, because this can only mean one of 2 things, right? Either strong potential, this could be one of the worst books I read all year. Like, if they don't like, if they hate it, how much am I gonna hate it? Considering that I always rate everything lower than they do. The other option, what if I like it? What if, yet again, I just have the unpopular opinion? What if I like this? I didn't ask if there are any, like, pathetic, sad, old, depressed men in this, because if there are, it could be a 5 stars. I just want to know how I feel. Like, I'm not excited for this book for what it is. I'm excited for this book for my reaction, and I'm so looking forward to book club Soule at the end of the month. So if you feel like joining me to read a book that apparently is going to be awful, stick around for the Soule. I'm gonna say at this point, no spoilers. However, depending on what I feel about this book, that might change, but if it does, I will warn you. I really don't know what to expect. So, let's go find out. Okay, so I've just hit the 40-page mark, which is not very far in, but I'm like, I've read the first 5 chapters. I'm not sure if my expectations have just been tempered by all the negative feedback from my friends, but so far it's not awful. It's pretty much on par with what I expected at this point, so like, I'm not sure how much worse it's gonna get. I will say the kind of setup for this world is that I'm guessing humans don't exist anymore because they're just not even mentioned, and Fae are legends and elves are like supposedly like the only thing left. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. I feel like elves are just filling the space of humans in this. I feel like they just wanted humans that could maybe also do magic and like had pointy ears and stuff. And here's the thing, right? Yeah, in like the prologue chapter, this is page 2, okay? Look, here's the thing. It says that one of the gods made Fae with pointed teeth and ears like bats. Now I have to ask, do they mean big and kind of pointed? Is it more like this? Or are we fully like this? Because this is what I am picturing. It offers no explanation. Ears like bats. The only description. I have got to assume it is like this. So until I am told otherwise, the minute I see Fae in this book, I'm giving them bat ears. It's fine so far. The book does a lot of telling. Like, it just, I feel like when it's so far describing the characters and how they feel about things, it's being very overly explanatory, I guess. It can't just leave you with a situation. It's kind of telling me in almost like a minutia of detail exactly how, and it's not that I don't like being told how characters are feeling and everything. It just feels like I'm being given like a bullet pointed laundry list of like exactly who this person is in factual terms, and it's like there's no room for nuance. I'm not being shown this. There's no like, it's not demonstrated through interaction or anything happening. I'm just told this is who this character is, this is what their relationship is, and this is how they feel about it. I guess if you're trying to be expedient and just get this out of the way, it's a fair move. It's just almost a bit like Wikipedia entry-ish for me. Like, this feels like somebody writing about the character outside of the work of the book, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like a summary of like this character's relationship with another character that you might find on like a wiki page. I think I just prefer to see things exemplified rather than stated. If I keep going, I'm going to start getting on to the point that I don't really understand how this world works at the moment. It seems like everybody's fighting over this resource. It's literally Avatar, Unobtainium. There's this magical resource that will like help crops grow. It's like, it has like the sun power or something along those lines. It's magic rock. And obviously like all these different, like these 4 different sections or 3 different sections or whatever of elves are all fighting over it. But at the same time I'm like, okay, my camera died and I don't want to change the battery because I can't find any, so I'm filming this on my phone. But basically to say, the setup is that they're fighting over like this magical rock, and Yiren herself, when she gets promoted, right at the start of this, like the first chapter she gets promoted, and she's now in command of like, at least like 1,000 people. It might have been more. I think it's 1,000 people though. And I'm like, that's just her one regiment, right? That's just her people. And she's got all of them out doing like a basic maneuver on like the first day, and I'm like, so this isn't even like a particularly large company of soldiers compared to what I imagine the whole army is like at this point. If you're just taking them on like a routine exercise. And it's the fact that these, I'm sure there's 4 different elf armies or whatever. These 4 different elven societies or clans or whatever they are, they're all fighting over this magic rock. The way it keeps being talked about is that if they had more of it, they could do things like magically make crops grow, and at some point someone says something like, we need to get the deposit of magic rock so that we can like use that to feed the troops. But in my head I'm thinking, you wouldn't fucking have troops to feed if you weren't all fighting over the magic rock. And I know it's like a whole resource war thing, but in my head it's like, say you were trying to earn money, and in order to earn that money you spent more money than you could ever possibly earn back. It doesn't seem like a very good investment to me. I'm thinking, there are like starving orphans and stuff like all through this book. The main character and her sister have all been starving, and I'm like, is it because there are like no other natural resources in this world or what have you? Is that the setup? Because it hasn't really been made to sound like that. It sounds like they're a product of this ongoing war, that like people are giving birth on the front lines and really young children are being like sold into indentured servitude in the army. And it's like, okay, this sounds like a byproduct of fighting for this resource. But if your troops were all just like fucking farmers, could you not just not have this issue? I understand that there is big shiny magic rock that everybody wants, but I actually don't understand like the societal motivations for pursuing this resource. It just sounds like you're putting way more into it than you're getting out. The main character, you learn right away that she's walking around with like an expensive ring sewn into her armour, so that if she dies in battle, the children that are known to pick over the corpses of the dead will get a nice ring. And she's like arranged for that. That's like a thing that she does. And I'm like, okay, so state of things not great. And I literally do not understand the setup for this world. I feel like people who don't understand certain aspects of how things work should stop writing about them. If you don't understand how like a society is, or how like a military works, or how like, don't write about something that just doesn't make sense. You can't just tell me it's because there's a magic rock and they want it. I'm like, I know, babes. I'm kind of confused by the world at this point, is what I'm trying to say. Everything functions around a military trying to get a magic rock because it will help them feed their armies that they have just to get this magic rock. And I'm like, if that's the cycle, and it doesn't seem to be going well, I do not understand how it has persisted thusly. At this point, like, what do you do? What do I just have to ignore it? I'm sure this is going to go on to be like more of like a romance focused thing. I'm not sure. But the thing is, this is still on par with like what I expected. I'm not shocked by this. I'm not like this is the level of what I expected this book to be, just based on my impression of the kind of books that Fairy Loot puts out. What is it about this book that made the girls go absolutely feral and give it 0 stars? Like, is it really that bad? Can it really get that bad? It's not awful so far. Oh wait, can I complain about one more thing before I go? Can I complain about one more thing? Do we have time? Her sister, Lettel, one of the sisters, is a diviner, and I've said that, and she's dirt poor. I mean, they were dirt poor to begin with, but the sister that's in the army earns a living. The one who is a diviner, now, where's the fucking quote? Right, so Lettel, the sister who is a diviner, she's really poor because she's devoted her life to this profession that nobody really wants, nobody really pays for. It says in the book, a petty skill of prophecy rarely used by elves anymore. Rarely used meant rarely paid for. So she doesn't have any money because nobody is buying her services. She's a diviner, she can tell the future using these expensive magical beast entrails, and her sister often sends her money for this, but she does not really make money. Yiran wanted to retort that it would be difficult for any of her clients to ask as they were non-existent. So nobody's paying for Lettel's services, right? Says that in the text. And in literally the next paragraph, Lettel's talking about how she went to the abattoir to get these magical beast entrails so she could do a prophecy for her sister. And she says, there were other diviners bidding on the entrails. And I'm like, excuse me a minute. Fair enough, there are multiple diviners. There are multiple people who occupy a profession that nobody wants. There is no demand for this profession. Clearly a lot of supply and no fucking demand. It's her passion, it's her calling, so she's going to do it anyway. That's not my point. My point is, these other diviners, if there's no supply and demand, why are they bidding? How are they bidding? Not just for how are they getting money. Maybe somebody else is giving them money. They are spending money on something that is essentially worthless. The thing they're going to use it for has no monetary value, or such little value that, like, they're not getting paid a lot to do this. That's like me saying, oh, I'll paint you a painting, pay me £5 for the painting, but I'm gonna bid on the paint and the paint is gonna cost me like 50 quid. That's not an investment. Who does this as a living? This is their profession. It doesn't make sense. How can you say in one paragraph that elves don't really put stock in prophecy anymore? Nobody goes to these diviners. It says that elves, they don't pay for their services. How have they gotten to the point where they are bidding on entrails? How much money are they all spending? Because they all get together to bid. It's like they're all so desperate to have these entrails for their divinations, but the divinations themselves are monetarily almost worthless. I do not understand this setup. I really don't understand how this system comes to be. I feel like I'm being picky, but like I'm trying to figure out why the girls hate it so much. As of yet, I'm not seeing the issue. But I have a lot of book to go, so I'm gonna keep on reading. Nothing about this is screaming DNF to me, and the girls are begging me to DNF it. I don't know. Maybe the intro is fine, but maybe it just like goes downhill from here. I'm literally always the odd one out in this group, so like maybe I'll end up liking this book. Who knows? Okay, I'll check in when I have something substantial to update on. It sucked. Okay, important thing to note, I made it 130 pages into this book and DNF'd it. I did not think I would be DNFing any of the book club reads, specifically because, like, I'm obligated to read them. However, the book club hated this one. They were right. They were so right. It's so bad. Out of the 3 of us, 1 managed to finish it, and between the last 2 of us, we decided we're DNFing this one. I think last time I was complaining about, like, the fact that, like, the world doesn't make sense, and, like, just the setup of, like, the society doesn't really make sense. People's motivations don't really make sense. The fact that they've got this James Cameron's Avatar ass unobtainium. What all I will say is, it keeps going down the Avatar route. So much of this book is like Avatar. I thought I was making a funny joke when I said that this, Under the Dust Jacket, reminded me of frickin' James Cameron's Avatar. Well, it's just like that. It does not get any better, and I think the worst thing about this is the story itself is kind of all vibes and like no substance. It's very just, everything is so over-explained, and characters are constantly just like, they oscillate wildly between monologuing about the world and how it works and like why this is like this and why this is like that and why we need this thing. And yet then they just go on to like monosyllabic, mono-word answers. It'll be like, yeah, thanks, okay, no, what? It's like some conversations between people do not need to exist in fiction. I do not need it to be in the book. I don't need it to be in the book. It's worse than like Oblivion NPC level dialogue, you know, with like the little music in the background. Oh, Minstrel's Lament was playing in my head. It's the dialogue. I'm gonna give you an example because I had to do this for the girls. So I will do it for you as well. So this is very early on, and what I will say is I got like 130 pages in, and I'm still not past the events of the synopsis. And I will say it's so predictable. So at this point, I just want you to know that if you are intending to read this, there are no spoilers here. Everything that this conversation refers to happens in like the first 2 chapters. There's 3 characters, there's the 2 sisters and this one other guy, and they're like kind of traveling together. Honestly, you don't need to know. Just like, it's the dumbest dialogue. Here you go. What happened to the raspberry tea? That was half a night ago. I fell asleep. You did. Can you take watch for the next hour or so? I just need a few hours sleep. Yes, Colonel. Just Yeran, please. It was my fault. I encouraged you to explore the Eastern Bank. I'm so sorry. It was no one's fault but my own. Do you deny that I was the highest ranking officer on that field? You were. And do you agree that I was capable of making my own decisions as the highest ranking officer on that field? Yes. By taking a share of the blame, you are denying both of those facts. Now, I don't believe that's something you'd like to do? No. Right. So it's settled then. No blame lies at your feet. Thank you, Colonel. Every conversation is like this. Every conversation is like this. I can't do it. I can't do it. And like, it's so boring. It's so dull. It repeats itself so many times. The dialogue is so dry. The text is so dry. It's giving me nothing. There's no emotion. It really, I don't want to hate on authors, but it really does sound as though it's written by a child. It sounds, it's the thing that's bad about this book is the actual quality of the writing. It's not specifically the story, it's not specifically the characters. Like, they have cool aesthetics, and it's kind of like they've got cool attributes. However, they have no depth. They're so 2D, they're so one note. They have like no nuance. There's nothing really interesting about them. It's all vibes, it's all for show, and there's no exploration of anything. There's no introspection. There's like none of this. There's just, everything is so one note. And oh, here's the thing that pisses me off. I don't like prophecies. I hate prophecies. And this book, it's all prophecy, but like not even in a good way. You know, the only kind of prophecies that I can get on board with are when it's for the character's benefit and not the reader, and it's like something that the reader already knows or something that's already come to pass. The best one I can think of is Cersei's prophecy in A Song of Ice and Fire, where it says like her children will have golden crowns. That's a fun play on words. We already know what it means. As far as a prophecy goes, I don't mind stuff like that. What I don't like is where the book, in the first couple chapters, tells me exactly how the story's going to end, and like who's going to live and who's going to die, and where all the characters are going to end up, because how freaking boring is that? How annoying, how boring. The fact that like one of the girls in this is like a prophetess, a diviner, and it's like, she can tell prophecies, but she also gets given a prophecy, and it's just the most, it's not even like subtle about it. It's very much just like, hey, this is a thing that you will do, this is where you will end up, like this is the actual, like this is where you will be at the end of this story. And then there's another prophecy later on that she does for herself, and even that one just gives her like even more on the nose stuff. It's so, I don't want to like spoil the book, but there's nothing for the characters to overcome. The prophecy doesn't do anything other than literally just tell the reader how it ends, and it feels like it's the kind of prophecy that when you finish the book you look back and you're like, oh my god, that's what it meant. But like, it's not even hard to know what the prophecy means. It's not vague in the slightest. I need you to know that it's so explicit in exactly what it's telling you that it deliberately spoils the rest of the book. And I'm like, where is the interest coming from? Where is the intrigue coming from? Where is the excitement and the enjoyment coming from? Because the events as they are on the page are so goddamn boring. Genuinely, the only emotion I had reading this was just sheer boredom. By the way, this is not an adult fantasy. One thing that when I went into this, I was thinking, oh, this is a YA that's been marketed as adult fantasy. But the thing is, this reads more simplistic than like the first Harry Potter book. This is absolutely for preteens. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not doing this for like hyperbolic effect. I'm absolutely not trying to trash. If you like this book, that's fine, but just the level of complexity and the quality of the craftsmanship is worse than books that I read prior to the age of 10, and I feel so do you think your readers are stupid? It's so patronizing. And like, even just like the language use, the sentence structure, the story structure, again, the dialogue, the fact that like it will just tell you everything a character means. Nothing can be left up to interpretation. A character will say something and either they will say what they meant by that and how they're feeling, or just the text will. It feels like baby's first book, and I didn't get any enjoyment out of this, so I DNF'd it at 130 pages in, was when I got to part 2, and I just thought, I don't want to do this, I'm not reading any more of this. Oh, that was another thing that annoyed me. Every single chapter has to end with a big like dun 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 mic drop kind of moment. Every single fucking one. This is not really spoilers, but like there's a part where the 3 people traveling together essentially get like trapped, and it's like you see them enter this situation and you see things escalate, and you see that they are physically incapable of leaving the situation. Imagine you like fell into a trap, or a door locked behind you and like you were rattling the handle and you couldn't get out, and like you knew you were trapped and everything. And the scene describes for like a page and a half the fact that like the characters are trapped. You're literally just watching the characters verify the fact that they are in fact trapped. They know it, you know it, we saw it happen in great detail. And then one of the characters like does a loop of like the place where they're trapped, and oh, it says she turned to voice her chilling conclusion, we're trapped. It's like, fuck off. Actually, fuck off. I could see that you were trapped. You know they're going to meet the Fae at some point, so the chapter before is like, the woman was Fae, and it's, the Fae are so shit, by the way, they're so boring, they're so stupid. It's like, oh, it was too late, they'd been spotted. It's like, can you just end a chapter on just like, I'm so sorry, but having read some actual good adult books this month, I understand the whole use of cliffhangers and things, but does it need to be at the end of every single chapter? Do you have to have like this big, stupid, like, in your face moment at the end of every single freaking chapter? Do you know there are other emotional beats that you can end a sentence on? You can finish a chapter on any other sort of emotional beat that isn't just dun dun dun, this is happening now. So fucking childish, so fucking stupid. I hate this book so much. I didn't think I was gonna hate it. I genuinely couldn't understand going into this and like reading like maybe like the first 1 or 2 chapters. I was thinking, it's not great, but like it's not below par for what I expect from this genre, which YA sort of very generic fantasy where it's more about the relationships, but even those are so dull and so unexplored, and like, oh my god, this did the only one bed trope, and this book does not deserve to do, but there was only one bed. It doesn't deserve it. It's undeserving. It was written worse than like fan fiction that my peers used to write in like very early high school and probably before. It was just atrocious. I actually can't get over how bad this book was. I thought this was going to be like every other YA fantasy. It's just not. It's just not. It's just so much worse. It's actually so egregiously poorly written. I can't wrap my head around how it's this bad and how it's marketed to adults, and my only assumption is that there is the inclusion of spice. At this point, like, I know they sell well, I know they're like, oh, the big seller, but I'm like, this story is a story for preteens and under. Like, the level of complexity, the characters, the freaking dialogue, it's awful. There's not even really blood and gore. I'm just assuming there's spice later. Whatever it is that makes this supposedly an adult book, it even kind of censors, again, I've not gone far with the spice or anything because I was only in the beginning, but any of like the relationship stuff is all extremely sanitized. Like, one of the opening scenes is 2 women who are in this relationship together, and they're just, I think they're in bed together, but they're having like a conversation. Now, the way this was done in stuff like Priory of the Orange Tree is like, it's very adult, but in a way that's not really explicit. It's very believable, is that if you were in bed with your lover but having a conversation, you might interact like this. In this one, it's so sanitized and so PC, they could have been friends. Just gals being pals, maybe apart from like a kiss, but like that's it. If that's the level of sanitization we have, like somebody has their dick out later and it's referred to as ... parts, and I'm like, we can't even say penis, we can't even say cock, we can't even, like, is it not, because it really does feel like it is a book for actual children. That isn't me trying to like, there are books that are for children that are good. There are many books that are for actual children that are way, way, way better than this, and that I would prefer to read. I'm insulted by the fact that this book thinks it is for adults. No. Anyway, I gave it 1 star. Yeah, book club agreed that this is one of the worst books we've ever read. It's not offensive, it's not problematic, it's just bad. And we had a good time going through some of the Goodreads reviews, because some of them are so harsh and so funny and so accurate. I think the bit that pissed me off the most is it was just so pointless. It was the characters walk into a cave and there's moss on the wall and they notice and remark the moss, and then somebody's like, but moss can't exist without sunlight, and then a character looks up and goes, oh, sunlight. I'm like, actually, fuck off. That's where I lost my shit. That's like page 100-ish. I have another book by this author somewhere, and at this point, I really don't think I'm gonna read it. It was one that I was like tentatively positive about. It's all negative from here, babes. It's all bad now. Tainted Waters. Oh, I'm so bad that I can't believe this vlog went this way. When I started it, I did not think I would be DNFing it. But there are so many other books that are so, like, worth my time. And this is not one of them. With that, I'm gonna go. Thank you guys so much for watching and putting up with this. If you like this kind of thing, I tend to do a lot of reading vlogs, so stick around. I am often salty, not usually this salty, but you know, go ahead, leave me a salt shaker emoji if you made it this far, and let me know either, like, if you've read this book, do you agree, or just what was the last book you read that was absolutely awful? Tell me what it is, tell me why. Would love to hear it, would love to avoid it. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully a better one than this one. Okay, bye.